Good morning, everyone. It's accountability day 22, and it's the first full week of the 21-day salad challenge. I hope it's going well. I hope that you have been finding new ways to eat salads and enjoying salads a little bit more. But today I wanted to hop on and share a different message because I think this is one that is not really talked about in the health space, and I think it deserves a lot of we need to be talking about it. It's something that's missing, and we need to really understand this concept. And in order to understand, okay, how can we really get healthy? Because I think there's a lot of ways to get healthy that are just slapping on the band-aid, or it's manipulating these external things to try and manipulate our external appearance. But the problem is, if we don't change what's happening on the inside, will it ever stick? You know, statistically speaking, over 90% of all diets fail. And part of the reason I think that is not necessarily because the diet is faulty. It's because our perspective of what's happening is faulty. So I just want to kind of give you a little lesson about the truth about how you actually change your body and what is really, really, really important in health, because the simple little shift that's more than simple, I suppose, it has drastic results on your body, is really not that difficult to do. So it's a mindset lesson, and this stuff really matters. So ask questions along the way if you have questions. I know this isn't specific to like my nutrition lessons that I've been doing, but I really do think that this message is more important than anything I could teach you about nutrition, because it changes your viewpoint of nutrition enough to help or enable you to do it in the right way. And when we do it in the right way, we move from just surviving to thriving. We move from just beating our body into submission, from this thought of our body is the villain and against us, and we have to constantly try to manipulate our environment to make our body do what it wants. But reality is we can't do that. We can't override our body, or we can't outsmart our body. Our body is designed to survive, and we have to learn how to work with that. Remember, we're either or. We're either in surviving mode, which is our parasympathetic mode, or we're in thriving. And thriving is the state of the body where we're really working together. We're really seeing our body for what it is. We're listening and we're providing, and we're really just living in this state. So today, it's all perceptions. Now, this weekend I was on social media a little bit again. I kind of take a break. I tried to take 24-hour social media sabbatical, which is amazing. But I think that there is a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of fear and a lot of stuff going around. So this relates to more than just nutrition. This is life in general. But essentially, what I believe about the body is it's simply a byproduct of your belief systems, which shape your mind, and your actions, which create the body change. So a lot of people just try to put all their inputs into this body aspect, but if our beliefs and our mind are not in the right space, no matter how many times we try to manipulate that, and even if we see short-term gratification and short-term change in our body, over the long term, we know historically, statistically, the research shows it will not stick, because if we don't believe it, we won't do it long term. So the reality is that we have to go back to our beliefs. We have to understand how our beliefs are shaping our actions, because it's in our actions that create the change that we really want to see, right? We can try to eat healthy all week long and then we fall off the wagon, right? Well, that was because we're working against our actual beliefs about our body, our beliefs about what we believe in health. So again, please ask questions. This is a little bit different than a nutrition lesson, but it's all on perceptions. So our perceptions are essentially what's controlling what state of our body or what state our body is at. Remember, we're either in parasympathetic mode or sympathetic mode. Parasympathetic is what I call our thriving mode. It's where our body is working in harmony, it's healing, it's rejuvenating, and it's doing all the things that we want it to, releasing, losing weight, staying healthy. All of those things are happening in parasympathetic mode. The other state is sympathetic mode. In sympathetic mode is our stress response. It's our fight or flight response, where we start to hoard and we hold on to and we conserve. And it's not to say that either one is better or worse, right? It's just to say that we need to be in the right balance. We need both states, but we need the right balance. Unfortunately, what we see so many people doing is just living in survival mode. We're just surviving, especially seasons like this, and historically speaking, why people leave these seasons more unhealthy than they came in. And what we know about what state of the body we are in, whether thriving or surviving, it's a lot or often the majority of the time based on our perception of the environment. So we might have, we're living in this environment, whatever that is, right? And while our environment is reality, our perceptions are a skewed form of reality. It's how our body is perceiving that. So let me just give you an example as it relates to health. So say, for instance, you are trying to cut back in calories. And so you eliminate a ton of calories from your diet and you go on a low-calorie diet. Now, to you, you might think that's really great, right? I'm trying to manipulate my body to do what I want. I want it to lose weight. And therefore, there's good science that says if you reduce calories to less than you consume or less than you burn, you will lose weight, right? Now, this is a good thought, and there's great research to back that up. But the problem is that our perception of what's going on is different or portrays a different picture to our body than what's actually happening in our environment. So what I'm saying is when you start to conserve or when you start to reduce calorie count in your body, that tells your body in some sense that there's not enough, right? That there's not enough to go around. You start thinking things like, oh, I can't eat that. That's too many calories, or I've had enough, or I'm going to skip breakfast. All of these things that tell your body, that signal to your body, there's scarcity. There's not enough, or I can't have it, right? All of those make a perceived threat inside of your body. So your perception to the body is that there's not enough to go around. It's a threat. When our reality is that there's fast food on nearly every corner in America, even small towns, right? More people, or most people, have more food than they need. And we do live in a food abundant society. Now, I know the times in general are a little scarce for people and people are really struggling to put food on the table. But again, that's going to give the perception to the body that there's not enough. And it's in that perception that our actions change, and therefore our body will change just based on those actions. So is this making sense? Give me like a thumbs up if you're totally getting this. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, we will keep working with this. So let me know that you're getting this. So again, our perceptions are not reality. There are reality, but it's not true reality. And oftentimes the problem comes when our perceived reality gets too far from true reality. That's where we see this gap. And that's where that gap gets filled with all kinds of negative things like anxiety and worry and frustration and anger. And we fill that gap with tons and tons and tons of things, and including food. So we will stuff the gap. When our gap from true reality and our perceived reality gets too wide, we have to fill that gap in, because that's how our mind works. Our mind works to finish stories and creates loops. So our mind is constantly working in loops. And if a loop is left unfinished, our mind will fill that in. So our bodies are designed to finish stories, to fill in loops, to fill in gaps, to make a complete story. That's how our body works. Now, again, when we get too far from reality, that's when we start to see our body maybe not responding in the way that we want to. So again, our perceptions are not reality. There are reality. So it's not, you could be living in the same exact household. I think of this all the time. I tend to be like more of the anxious worrier person in our household. My husband, I don't know that he has a worrying side to him. And I think we are living in the exact same environment with the exact same situations going on. And you are taking this in a completely different direction than I am, right? And it's based on our perceptions of what's actually happening. So we shape our reality, and that's going to be dependent person to person. And this is really, really important to know, because perceptions, oh, that's not a pen, are choices. While we can't control a lot of our reality, right? Reality is reality. We don't have a lot of control over that. What we do have control over is how we're perceiving those realities. And it's in those perceptions that it changes our action, which changes our body. Now, some people like to look at perceptions as the filter, like I think about it as like an Instagram filter or a Facebook filter of how you are perceiving life and how your life is going to be shaped around that perception. So why is this important as it relates to health, right? So like, let's just bring it all the way back to health. This is so important because there are a lot of healthy things that we could and should be doing. But if we do them in the wrong perception, it has a negative impact on our biology. So again, our perceptions are creating this thrive versus survive state. And if we're just in surviving, right? If our perceptions are negative and we're living in fear and life is against us and things are always going wrong, right? I'm not one to say like, oh, if you think it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. But I do think that we see different things, right? So I don't think that we can control reality with our thoughts, but I think we are able and we can make the choice to see different sides of the story and to see different things going wrong. So if you constantly live with this mindset of, oh, it will never work, I can never lose weight, life always is against me, things are always going wrong, guess what? It's probably true because that's what you're going to continuously see. You've trained your mind, you've trained your perceptions, and you've created belief systems based on the fact that nothing will work. And the reality will become that nothing will work. Not because that's true, but because you've made that true for yourself. So again, I don't want this to get all woo-woo, but I think it is really, really important to note that we can change our perception and that we are controlling a lot of times the outcome of what's happening just based on our belief system. So again, if we can train or change our belief system to believe that we are capable, that we can change, that we can live a healthy life, that food isn't against us, our body isn't against us, and we can work with our body, then we can change our perceptions to be more positive. And in that positive change, we can see a positive outcome. So it's really, again, where your perceptions are is often what you fixate on, and what you fixate on will grow. So again, it's not to say that just because bad things happen to you that you're cursed or the environment or world is against you, but it's to say that that's what you are seeing in the world that we live in. Now, the opposite end of the spectrum is seeing something totally different. Like in this situation with my husband and I, right? He sees the grass is always green, right? And sometimes I see that the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence. And so again, we can live in the exact same environment, in the exact same situation, and have two very different perceptions. But again, it goes back to our beliefs. So what is this to say? I think it's really, really, really important that we don't always believe our perceptions. This is hard, and it takes work, and it's something I'm currently doing for myself, and why I wanted to bring it up, right? Because again, in this season, I think we hear, oh, I'll never be able to get healthy, or it's not worth it. I don't have the time. I'll start when life goes back to normal. I'll wait until then. I don't know what's going on. There's too much uncertainty. Do you see how we start to let these thoughts, and we flood our mind with all of this worry and panic and anxiety, which is constantly triggering ourselves to be in sympathetic mode. We're constantly pushing ourselves out of balance into this hoard and hold on to and live in worry. We're taking the gap of reality and we're expanding it to create a new reality that is really far from our actual reality. Now, I'm not saying we aren't living in grim, hard, dark times. Yeah. But our reality is that we've been through this before, right? We don't have to live based in the fear that's being implemented. We can live in more positivity. Now, again, some people say our perceptions are just our opinions, and this is where it gets really, really challenging because a lot of us like to stand behind our opinions. The same thing goes for like something I feel like I've been really challenged in is by throwing the diet industry under the bus, when in fact, I don't know if it's actually the diet industry that's at fault or our own perceptions about the diet industry that are at fault, right? So just an example in my own life of that is like, maybe it's not the diet that's bad, but maybe it's our perception around the diet or around what we're doing that is actually pushing people into a negative state. That's pushing people away from health rather than for it, like it was intended. Okay, I'm totally rambling right now. Someone just asked me a question. Let me know that you're getting this before I get into, okay, if our perceptions are the thing that we can control. How do we make our perceptions work for us, right? How do we make our perceptions help us to become healthier, right? How do we make our perceptions change our joy and our happiness and our health and all of these things that we really, really want it to? Let me know how it's going. I feel like it's Monday and I feel frazzled for some reason. How's everyone else feeling? Okay, there's a really good quote that I want to share with you as I'm waiting for people. Like, give me a thumbs up if you're getting this. If you have questions, let me know. But it's from Stephen Covey. He's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he states, perception is based on our mind-constructed model of the world. Again, a perception is a created belief that's been formed in our mind such that life reflects our beliefs and opinions. To change ourselves effectively, we have to change our perceptions. And I love that little last part. To change ourselves effectively, we have to change our perceptions. And why I think this concept of changing your perceptions is way more important than talking about what you should put in your body and what you should eat and how many macros you should consume. Because we can talk about that all day long, but if you have a bad perception of it, it doesn't matter what your body is, or it doesn't matter to your body, right? It's going to change what your body does with it. So often we get so fixated on what we should put in our body and how much we should exercise that we miss our very reality is it's not so much what you do to your body, but it's what your body does with it. And what your body does with the things that we do to it are based on our perception. I'll say that again. What your body does with what you do to it is based on your body or based on your mind's perceptions. So our perceptions are really, 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 really important. So again, to change yourself effectively, you have to change your perception. So how do we do this, right? How do we go back and change our perception? One is we have to recognize that just because we have a perception of something does not mean it's true. It does not mean it's reality. And just because you have an opinion does not mean that's right. And this is really, really, really hard. And I think why Brené Brown's work on vulnerability is so critical and was so timely was because I think that without being or feeling secure enough to be vulnerable, we'll never state our opinion as wrong, right? Because as a part of insecurity, what happens is we start protecting and hoarding our perceptions as true. We start to grasp and grapple with anything that we can cling to that might be true, and we stake a ground there, right? And you put your security in something that is a perceived form of reality. It's your perception that might not be based in fact. And this is what gets really tricky. So you have to be secure in yourself. You have to be secure in your beliefs in order to come back and challenge your perceptions. So this does take a level of vulnerability, but I think it also is the first steps in developing more security in yourself, more confidence in yourself, is understanding that it's okay to challenge your perceptions. It's okay to be wrong. And so one is we have to be willing to look at our perceptions and say, but is that true? So for instance, in this time of negativity, right, I could be a little bit more anxious, right? I could let my mind wander into worst case scenario thinking. And I know I'm not alone in this. It feels so real, right? Like these fears, they feel so real and the economy looks so terrible. Like, how are we going to get through this? What are we going to do? And my perception comes like doom and gloom, right? Like, why even do any of this at all? What's the point? I mean, you could wander to that worst case scenario. So it really is coming to a place of recognizing, okay, when I want to express my fear, when I want to say I'm anxious, or when I feel like I'm just worrying to worry, can I go back? Can I challenge where that worry came from? So I'm just going to stop the thought. I'm going to say, okay, I understand that this is how I'm feeling or this is what I'm perceiving, but I want to go back and ask, is this true? And in order to challenge what is true, we have to really have a deep belief system. We have to understand what it is that we believe, and that belief has to be true. Again, where spirituality and faith come so deeply into health is because it shapes our health, right? It creates the belief system in which we can challenge our perceptions. And if we don't have that, then our perceptions are left to kind of run wild. So our perceptions can only be changed by changing our beliefs. And this is really, really, really important and really, really also challenging at the same time, because it has to go back and understand, what is it that we really believe, and do we really, really, really believe it? Because I think a lot of us, right, if we don't change our belief system and we don't stand on something solid for ourselves, what happens is our perceptions are based on stored memories. They're based on what's been done to us, what experiences we've had in the past, and often our perceptions are shaped in childhood. That's why people repeat cycles over and over and over and over again. It's because we've been shaped, and a lot of our beliefs were formed based on our parents and our grandparents and whatever we were raised with. Now, there is a genetic disposition to this as well. So we do see that genetically we're more predisposed to certain perceptions as well. But generally speaking, perceptions are based on stored memory, what's been done to us, what we were born into, past memories. Now, again, that's fine, and we've been through that. But if we have a bad view of what we've been through, or we haven't done the healing work and all of that, of course that's going to shape our perceptions again, right? It all goes back to, again, what it is that we believe. How do we change our perceptions based on that and challenge our perceptions? So one, even if you don't know what you believe in right now, that's okay. It's still important to go back and challenge your perceptions and understand, does this seem true? Does this give it weight? And even if this perception were true, is it helpful in any way to what I'm going through right now? And I think that's also another thing about perceptions is, one, we need to challenge them, and two, we need to question, is this perception helping me or hurting me? Because a lot of times we take perceptions on and we let them, and we take negative perceptions on because we believe them to be true, when reality is perception's a choice. And oftentimes we're just choosing to hurt ourselves. This is hard, I know, and I feel like I'm coming after you today. But sometimes we are really standing in perceptions that are hurting no one else around us but ourselves. Think about perceptions about how you look. Like, let's just go there, because these are the ones that we hurt ourselves. We all have perceptions about what we look like, right? And a lot of times people aren't telling themselves good things about what they look like, right? Why do people want to, the number one reason people go on a diet is to lose weight. Very few of them actually just want sustained health. We might say that we want to get healthy, but I think our number one desire for the majority of the people is actually to change the way that we look. So we do have perceptions about how we look, and those perceptions are oftentimes not helping in any way, shape, or form. They're hurting us, but we don't get that because we don't understand that perceptions are exactly the thing that are changing our action and are changing our body. And so one, challenge your perception, and two, ask, is this helpful for me in any way? And if it's not helpful, even if it's true, why are we standing in it? Why are we letting that take shape in our life when reality is we can change our perception to be helpful? So two, ask, is this helpful or is this hurtful? This morning, I seriously sat up on the couch at 8 o'clock. I knew I was going to do this. This is how I feel like you can be challenged in the midst of this. And I knew I was going to do this. And I kept thinking, man, I don't have a lot of work time today. I'm panicking. I'm not going to get everything done. I don't even know if this is worth it. I don't even know if I'm helping anyone. Like I go through this whole mindset thing of, am I even helping anyone? Does this even matter? Does anyone even care? What does this even matter? I can't even help myself, whatever. This whole thing that I go through, and I just stop. Like, I want to ask my husband, I want to look for reassurance, because if we're insecure in what we believe, we seek reassurance from someone else, right? We want to transfer our trust to other things because we can't trust ourselves. But reality is, seeking reassurance from someone else doesn't help. I've done it a lot of times and it doesn't work, right? But I stopped in that moment. I didn't say anything to my husband, and I took a deep breath and I said, okay, what I'm believing right now is not true. It's not formed in reality. I'm creating a new reality. It is not true, and it is not helping anything that I'm doing. In fact, I think that's why I was flustered when I first got on, why I was kind of running around circles in my words, is because I literally flustered myself right before I got on here. And a perception that was not helpful to anyone, especially not to myself. But what could have changed that? To say, that is not true. That is not reality. This is helpful. This does make a difference. I am helping people. Even if I'm just helping myself, this matters because I believe it matters, right? The same thing goes for your body. You can say hurtful things all day long to yourself, right? But if it's hurtful, what is it helping? Instead say, that might be true, right? Acknowledge the reality of, yes, I might be 20 pounds overweight, but that doesn't mean that I can't eat a salad and enjoy it. That doesn't mean I can't work out. That doesn't mean that I can't buy a new pair of jeans for myself to feel good in who I am now. It doesn't mean I'm going to settle here. It doesn't mean I'm going to settle here. It just means that I can choose to love myself where I am. I can choose to do helpful things where I am, changing that perception, which changes the action. So 1, don't always assume your perceptions are true. Number 2, challenge. Is this helpful or is it hurtful? And if it's hurtful, how could you make it helpful? How could we take those perceptions and make them help? How could we make them amplify where it is we want to go? Number 3, don't hold your perceptions too tightly. I see this happening so much on social media right now is people have a lot of opinions and they're holding those opinions really, really, really tightly. And so no matter how many times you challenge someone who's holding an opinion very, very tightly, even to see another side of the picture, to see another side of reality, it won't matter because they've held on to those opinions too tightly. That's what they're using for security. But we want to do better, we want to be better, we want to feel better and understand that holding on to our perceptions too tightly is only damaging ourselves because very rarely is there only one true reality, right? Very rarely is there only one true basis that we can stand on. We have to understand that people have a multitude of opinions and beliefs and perceptions and a multitude of different things going on in different people's lives. So for instance, I heard this story that will hopefully explain this. I heard this story about this guy who was sitting on a bus. And he was a younger fella, and he was sitting down, and the bus was packed, obviously not during COVID, but the bus was packed, and there was an elderly lady who had to stand. And there was a man that was standing by him and was very distraught by the fact that this young gentleman was making this elderly lady stand on a packed bus by not giving up his seat. And the young man didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. So after this guy got riled up, right? Like what happens on social media. He got riled up, he got angry, and he confronted the young man about it. And the man said, "I'm so sorry, sir, but I had my leg amputated not long ago, and I just got my prosthetic, and they told me I needed to be sitting as much as possible because if it started to swell, I would get a sore. And so they told me on the way home and for the next few weeks, I need to stay seated as long as possible. And the bus is full. Do not get on it. Wait for a seat on the bus." And so he sat and he didn't give up the seat to the lady because he had to be sitting. But no one knew that was going on because no one saw underneath the jean that he had a prosthetic, right? No one knew that. So everyone around them was left to judge based on what they perceived to be true, not even understanding what the actual reality of the situation was. So does that make sense a little bit? Again, I think that we can hold on to our opinions so tightly, but we don't always know the full story. And so it's best to understand, and it's best to go into understanding situations that maybe we don't always agree with, to understand that maybe they're going through something different. They're going through a situation that we don't understand. So again, maybe it comes to point number 3 is don't let other people's opinions and perceptions influence yours. Again, another thing I really struggle with is carrying other people's emotions and holding on to and hoarding other people's emotions. But it's not helpful, right? And in general, yes, it's good to see that and to feel that with them, but I do not need to carry it around and let it control my life. The same thing with other people's opinions and perceptions. That is their perceptions. That is their reality that they created. It does not have to be your reality. And so in order for us to kind of change our own perceptions, we can't hold on to ours too tightly, but we also can't get mad when someone else is, because that's not helping us. So in order for us to do better, we have to look at how we can help ourselves, not necessarily how we can help other people. And that means don't get too upset when other people are holding their opinions too tightly. And I know it's real. I mean, things can make my blood boil, but I know it's not worth the fight, right? But again, it goes back to how can I change my perception of this? How can I not hold on to my opinion so tightly that now I want to attack someone else who's holding on to theirs too tightly? So again, it's me starting to see where life is negative, where in my life I'm letting negativity get the best of me, where I'm letting it win, and where I'm letting those negative thoughts hurt me, and how can I make those positive? And the last thing is challenge them. Challenge your perceptions. Hold it up to what is actually true. Hold it up to your belief system. And again, why I think having that foundation in spirituality and faith and believing the Bible is so important, because there is our one true reality that we can hold all of our other perceptions up to say, is this true or is it not? because that is our actual truth that we can stand on and build our life on and hold up our perceptions based on that. And if we can recreate our belief system, if we can go back to what it is that we really believe and we start to work on our belief system about ourselves, about our life that we're living, about what it is that we stand for, then we can start to see our perceptions naturally take shape in that. I think sometimes we don't have anything to stand on. Again, our insecurity gets the best of us and we let ourselves run wild with negative perceptions, which spiral our body out of control. And we really do go back to trying to beat our body into submission or talking down about our body, wishing for other things, kind of all of these negative things that are not helping in any way, shape, or form. Again, if we go back to the beginning, and what I've been challenged with lately is throwing the diet industry under the bus, when maybe it's not the diets that are at fault. It's our perception of why we're dieting. It's our perception of what we're doing with the diets that is making it not work for the majority of the people. So our perceptions matter. And our perceptions, the closer we can get them back to our reality, which reality is based in our belief system, the less likely we are to fill that gap with negative things. So again, today, your goal, challenge your perceptions. Challenge, if nothing else, challenge what you're saying to your body about your body. Challenge what story you're telling yourself about your health. What story are you telling yourself about your weight? What story are you telling yourself about your marriage and about the way that your body influences how you think other people are responding to you or how much respect you're getting? Challenge your perceptions about your body and go back and dig in to what it is that you believe about that, because it's your beliefs that are ultimately creating your perceptions, which are shaping your actions, and your body is just a byproduct of all of this. So if we go back to the salad challenge and just pulling it all back together really quickly, start asking questions if you have them. I know we're like over 30 minutes. Oh, there's some on here. Look at me. I've just been rambling. I didn't even know you guys were talking to me. I'll look at those in a second. But if we go back to the salad challenge again, we can have this perception that I'm doing the salad challenge to lose weight. I'm doing the salad challenge so that I'm not as tempted to eat all the sugary food, right? And I was talking to my husband last night about this, of how there's like this extreme, right? Of like, oh, I'm only eating fast food over here and, like I don't care about my diet at all. And then there's like Whole30 and all these things that are also maybe not super realistic in general. How do we find like a healthy balance that's close to those diets that are trying to do good without wrecking our life over it? Like, how do we find a balance? And I think that comes from having the right perspective of what you're doing, having the right perspective around why you're eating a salad for 21 days. Like if it's to lose weight, you're probably going to get really frustrated really, really quickly because one salad a day probably doesn't have enough power to do that. Is it nourishing? Is it providing something good? Absolutely. But if we're fixating on an outcome, our perceptions around why we do things completely change. So we got to throw the outcome out the door and just come back and say, why am I eating a salad for 21 days? And in this time, I change my perception around vegetables from I have to I want to, from I think it's disgusting and gross, but I'll do it for my diet, to, oh, I really want to do this because it feels good. It nourishes my body and I can tell a difference when I do it. So again, challenge the perceptions and the lies that you form on why you're doing this, and try to change those perceptions just around salad today to something positive, to something good. Okay, so what are you guys saying? Okay, you're getting this. Feeling good. Okay. Nancy said, I agree about perception. It's how you think about staying on your diet. It's not worrying about what's going on around us. Yeah, it's so easy to get so consumed in what everyone else is doing that we miss that it's only what we're doing that matters. Kelly said, lately I've had to say to myself, use your thoughts for something better. What am I grateful for? Sometimes it helps. Yeah, I think it's alarming when we really get into how we think, how many thoughts are negative. And tomorrow I'm going to go into the science of what happens inside your body with negative and positive thoughts and how we can retrain our brain, which is really fascinating. I'm just going to do that and just lay out the steps to confidence, because there are some really basic steps to building confidence. But here's the thing. People get really insecure when we've built a life on negativity. And insecurity is allowed to bubble up and form up. And really what we know is when we want to become more secure in ourselves and build that confidence, it is moving over to that positive spectrum and perceiving life in a different way. So we'll kind of talk about that tomorrow, but it is true. It's kind of like just saying like, stop. Like it's hard, right? When you have an anxious thought or a negative thought, it wants to run wild. I always say, if you give a negative thought a millimeter, it will take a mile. And so we have to be aware, and you're not always going to win this battle. You're not going to win every negative thought. It's not going to happen. But how we continuously go back and push that thought back into reality, how we push that thought back into what we believe to be true, it will stop it from constantly having a tidal wave that attacks you over and over and over again. And yeah, being grateful, I mean, they still say gratitude is the number one frequency of health. And so gratitude really does matter. Kelly, love your honesty. Okay, I had some other thoughts on here on Instagram. Does anyone have anything else while we're talking? We're going to keep running with this message as the week goes. And I'm going to like sit down and be super positive before the next one because I feel like I was really flustered. And I think it is a good example of how easily just one thought can take your whole mind captive and how it can run the entire course of your next conversation. One thought can completely change how you react to your kids. It could be nothing to do with your kids, but it could be a thought that you allowed, a negative thought that you gave a millimeter that took a mile, and all of a sudden you're going to take it out on everyone around you, right? Because what we're thinking, what we believe, and our perceptions aren't just staying inside of our mind. This is where action is formed. This is how we're living our life. And this is why it's so important to take back those perceptions, because it is shaping how we're reacting to the world around us and everyone we encounter. I think about it all the time. Misery loves company, right? Misery loves company. And when I am feeling bad, I expect my husband will feel the same way. I don't really want him to, but at the same time, I kind of want him to feel the pain that I'm feeling. It's kind of why people argue, right? And get defensive of like, hey, if I'm going to feel this pain, you're going to feel pain too. Which is not good, but misery loves company. And the more we give it company, the more likely it is to hang out, right? We gotta stop giving it company, and we gotta stop throwing everyone else under the bus because we're feeling bad. Instead, we have to do the work personally to challenge those perceptions. Jen says, as a 4, perception and feeling seems like truth, and it's hard to convince myself otherwise at the same time. Any ideas on how to combat perceptions and feelings in the moment? Okay, this is a really, really great question. And she's saying she's an Enneagram 4, which Enneagram 4s are really deep thinkers. And I would even say deep feelers. Like they go to those hard places that a lot of people don't even give the time of day. I love 4s so deeply. I think everyone needs a 4 in their life. With that being said, how do we dictate the difference between a perception and a feeling? This is a really, really great question. Because I think sometimes when we think about challenging our perceptions, that means we should challenge our feelings and probably not feel or feeling. That's not true at all. But here's the thing. I think a lot of times we clump emotions and feelings in the same category, and this is where it gets confusing. Emotions and feelings are two totally different things. Emotions tend to be things like tend to be like anger and sadness and worry. I'll have to make a list of all the emotions. Emotions, there's only about like 25. I can't remember the exact number. I'll pull it up for tomorrow. But there's a relatively small number of emotions. Those are the things that we're actively feeling. Now, what's different about this is from an emotion, from a feeling, is that there's a line of perception. So we might all right now in this time be feeling or have the emotion of fear, but how someone's going to perceive that is going to change their feelings. So if someone's feeling fear, right, just between my husband and I, for instance, right, we're all feeling fear because that's the season we're living in. What makes it a feeling is a perception. So now we are inserting all of our beliefs, we're inserting everything we've been through in the past, we're inserting all of our stored emotions, everything that we've been learned, right? That's how we're inserting and basing a perception. And that's creating a feeling. There's over 550 defined feelings in the English language. So there's a ton of feelings based on an emotion. But this is what's different. An emotion, everyone will feel, and we can feel that. We got to give it power, and we've got to make it known that that's what we're feeling. That's okay to feel that. But it's when we insert in the perception of that we allow that feeling to now take shape in our life and change our action. And it's in this feeling that's based on our perception. So for instance, if someone's might be feeling fear, right? I might take that and think, nothing well's gone, or I'm cursed, nothing's gone well in my past, right? Just doom and gloom, everything's going to be negative, it can't be positive too long, right? We got to live in the negative, that kind of thing. Then of course, my feeling is going to be anxious and frustrated and like all of these negative feelings. But he might perceive that fear as power. He might perceive that fear as adventure or time of change. And he might perceive that fear in a different light that isn't a worry, of a challenge. Like, here's a challenge, here's motivation and drive. And so we can do that in two totally different ways. Jen, am I making sense at all? So an emotion is something that we're all going to experience. A feeling changes. An emotion changes based on our perception to create a feeling. Now, again, I think feelings and perceptions are different because our perceptions are shaping our feelings. They're not the same thing. And I don't think it's to say, oh, you shouldn't be feeling that. I think we can acknowledge that, but it's to say, is this feeling helpful or hurtful? And how can I use this to my benefit? The same thing goes with the emotion, right? Technically, your feeling is just based on an emotion. So we can manipulate how we feel regardless of what emotion that is, based on our perception. We'll get into this later. It's kind of deep. Okay, Jen, totally makes sense. Okay, anything else, other questions that we have? Okay, so we are going to get in that tomorrow. This was a long lesson. We're going to get into how to reshape our mind, and then we're going to talk about, again, emotions and how they create feelings and what we can do about it. I am never in the position to say, you shouldn't feel that. Stop crying. You shouldn't feel. I think everyone is allowed and entitled to feel what they feel. The problem is most people allow their feelings to create the action in their life, right? To run their life. And we allow feelings to be in control of us rather than changing our perception, which is going to change our outcome. So feelings, I don't want feelings to get the best of us. I think we can feel them, but I think there is a point to say, I can feel this, but I'm not going to let it run my life. And I think there is a difference. There is, again, a choice in our perception. Okay, so I hope that all makes sense. I'm rambling at this point. You guys are the best. Tomorrow I'm going to do a pep talk for myself before I get on here. We're going to crush it. We're going to get into this. But you guys, keep doing that 21-day salad challenge. Little things like this matter. And I think the more you start talking positively about your body, the more you change your perception about how capable and amazing your body is, even if it's not where you want to be. That doesn't matter. I'm not where I want to be. I don't think anyone is, right? That's not what we're after. We're after the change in perception about what you believe your body is capable of. And it's in there that you can change the course of your action. Okay, that's it for today. This was a long one. I'm going to let you guys go. I will be back on tomorrow talking more about this. You guys are the best. Have a great day. Ask questions if you have them or other topics you'd like to see on this, and I will keep talking about it. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Oh, okay. I see someone ask, where can we find the salad challenge? You can go to my blog, SimperWellness.com. I have a post in there, how to build a better salad. Last week's Friday 5 was 5 ways to enjoy salads more, and it gives tons and tons of ways to add more vegetables to your life, healthy salad dressing recipes. Basically, all the challenges is it's 21 days of one salad a day. There's really no rules. There's no guide to print out. It's really just that, 21 days of a salad a day. And again, it's just to help feed in more vegetables, which tend to be a little bit harder for people to attain, and to find ways to make it enjoyable. So again, there's no hard rules, but go to the blog, how to build a better salad. It's at SimperWellness.com. I'll link it up if I can, and you can get all the information there, but that's really it. That's all I'm challenging you to. So anyways, I hope that helps. Okay, I will be back on here tomorrow. See you guys later.